Yes, okay. It would have been nice to see the audience. I hope you have a good time over there in Kazan. I'm in Tampere in Finland, but normally I'm in Hong Kong. And Olli-Pekka is in Helsinki. Yes. And I've asked him to show, Olli-Pekka, can you start with my slides then? Yeah, okay, thank you very much, yes. Okay, so I wanted to give you a short introduction into the discussion that we currently have, not only in Hong Kong, but also in other cities around the world, in the context of intelligent mobility based on Internet of Things. So intelligent mobility is a challenge for most cities, and when you look at the global cities in the world, nearly all of them suffer from the same issue: too many cars, congestion, and growing mobility based on old technology. Old technologies in this case are fossil-fueled cars, which jam the cities all over the world. The next slide, please. So achieving sustainability really requires not only thinking from a technology point of view, but first to think about what is the future of mobility in our cities using based on sustainability concepts. And sustainability concept, that is really the core of what we talk about when we mean smart city. So it's about using less resources for something that is wasting a lot of resources and is in most cases very inefficient today. And so Internet of Things is a technology that is a critical enabler for smart city development. And because we can now use sensors and data, big data and open data to model new ways of smart mobility in our cities. But we are still at very early stages, I think, in most places. There are a few leaders, I think, in the world, but in most cities we are still just at the beginning of understanding how IoT and technology can really help us. Next one, please. And I also want to mention that the smart city is also under the big picture framework that we have given that has been given to us by the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And as you know, the United Nations Assembly is just going on, and the 2030 goals have actually mobility as a core topic. There are actually three main goals that are combined in this mobility. It is infrastructure, sustainable cities and communities, and climate action. So all these are goals under the 17 goals of the United Nations, and mobility is really a cross-cutting goal that is very important to all of them. Next one. Okay, so how can IoT help address challenges in cities? This is, by the way, as you can see, it's a picture from Moscow. And it's not taken by me, but I found this. This could be any other city, probably in Russia or anywhere else in the world. It is the same situation that private cars are clogging our inner cities, and it seems an endless struggle for urban planners and mobility planners to really get rid of this massive amount of fossil fuel cars in cities. Next one. So my main point is here that before we think about technology, we need to think about our mobility. How is it organized at the moment? Do we have an engineering-focused transportation department, which maybe thinks of highways and automobile first? Or do you have a strategy that is intermodular, that combines public transport, non-fossil transport, and all the other holistic ways of looking at transportation? What is it really that makes mobility intelligent? So I think it's a really important message from what I have seen in smart cities from Helsinki to Seoul to Tokyo to Hong Kong to other places in the world, that first we need to think about mobility. What is intelligent mobility in the age of limited resources. And then we think about technology and IoT, how this technology can support our mobility strategy. Next one, please. So, for instance, I want to give you an example. Now, I mean, you can open every newspaper and every transportation journal. They talk about electric cars. Next one. But the question is, electric cars, is it just the same? I mean, this is a kind of an interesting picture here from Copenhagen. You can see two pictures here. One is a city without electric cars, and one is a city with electric cars. So this is quite an interesting view, I think, because it tells us it is not enough just to replace existing cars with electric cars, because the issues that we have too many individually driven cars in our cities is really the core issue. So we need to reduce the number of individual cars. Next one. So intelligent mobility gives us an opportunity to really think about comprehensively about how we move in the city, how we create a mobility policy that goes from transportation to an inclusive policy on mobility, and how this mobility can be connected, intelligent, and go to mobility as a service. Mobility as a service means that you use your smartphone to see what kind of shared mobility resources are available, whether it's easy to access a shared car service or a public transport or a shared bicycle system, or simply to walk. So all these services have to be visible to you and also in real time show you what is the fastest way to go from A to B. Next one. So maybe the city in Europe which is leading in this thinking about mobility is Copenhagen. And there in the transport planning, we even use the word of Copenhagenize your city, which means go away from the traditional ways of seeing transportation as individual transportation and fossil-fueled mobility, really moving to a very different way of combining quality of life, sustainability, and future thinking in our cities. And Copenhagen in the 70s and 80s was a city like I showed you on the pictures of congested city, but now it's a city that has achieved nearly 50% of mobility by bicycle and public transport. Next one. So in a way, the message we get from the smart city programs is really to think about how to decarbonize mobility. And I think the word decarbonize has already the secret solution in the word decarbonize, that we need to think beyond the car in our cities. So even if we have connected cars and shared cars, cars still take a lot of space. And the space in our increasingly very, very full cities, particularly also in Asia, where we have these mega cities with more than 10 million people, the solution cannot be that everybody drives around with a car. So we need to think about these intermodular mobility and services that are connected in an intelligent way. Next one. So to summarize, I would say that strategy first, technology second. So the first is to think about the need, how can we reduce mobility? Can we also think about organizing the work in our city in such a way that people do not need to spend 1 hour or 2 hours in the car every morning to get to work? And can we make sure that all modes of transport have embedded intelligence, so that there's basically no medium of transport which is not connected to the overall IoT platform? And also we need to think about, is the transport available for all its users? Because we don't want to create cities where the rich can drive around with a car and the poor have no public transport or no access to sustainable transport. This is something maybe not applicable to cities in Russia, but in cities in Asia, particularly in emerging economies, this is a big issue that in India or in Indonesia, you have cities where those who can pay have access to cars, but those who don't have really no modes of transport accessible and available at a reasonable cost also. So we need to use our brains to really think about making mobility the core of the smart city and shaping a city that is sustainable, livable, and enjoyable for everyone, and it also has an efficient mobility solution for everyone in the city. Okay, I think that's it for my side. Can you move on one more? I think that's it. Okay, I think that was my presentation. Yeah. Okay, so I hope we can discuss some of the issues, and I think Olli-Pekka has a much more detailed presentation on the city of Helsinki, and we'll go more into the details of how such an IoT platform could look like. Thank you very much for your listening, and I look forward to some questions later on. Thank you.
Thank you, Vальraut, and greetings from Helsinki to Kazan also. Let me thank you first for the opportunity to share with you some of the interesting developments we are having here in Finland concerning the IoT and how we are trying to harness the data that is generated by these new devices to kind of develop better, more innovative products, especially in the city context. And I think the situation is same in Russia as it is globally, that it is the cities that are actually in the forefront of this development, because there is the critical mass and the possibility to really have these new IoT devices connected and generating information to use for the benefit of the citizens. So the project I am going to tell you about is a European Union funded development project that has not only the city of Helsinki, the capital of Finland, but also one of the second biggest cities in Finland, Tampere, the hub of technological innovation, and then the University of Tampere. And I am actually representing the University of Tampere in this project, and also currently I am working in the Pellervo Economic Research, which is one of the economic research institutes here in Helsinki. So what we are trying to achieve here is to look at the different ways these new IoT devices could be used to kind of give a data platform for digital enterprises and startups. So I mean private sector entities to kind of work together with the cities to make new and better products for the citizens. So the initiative is to kind of build an enabler for private enterprises to harness and to exploit the data that the cities generate. I would also imagine that in Russia the situation is in the sense the same, that there is critical infrastructure within the cities that can be kind of monitored with these IoT devices, and then it is more up to the private sector, the independent firms, private companies, startups, to kind of make new services based on this data. So this is a joint academic and hands-on exercise on how to do this. So we have actually the data that the city produces. If we look at the cities as kind of like information hubs, they generate a lot of information about people, about the companies that are operating in the cities. Also, the city organization itself generates a lot of information about the decisions it makes, the monetary flows within the city. Sometimes the cities also take care of the education or or healthcare. So this also generates a lot of different kind of information. And now what has become a problem is that due to this explosion of the data available, there is not really a well-defined ways of capture and restore and analyze this data. So that is something that the cities should think very carefully how to set up the infrastructure. So all this data that is generated by the cities and also about these new devices that make it more easier and cost efficient to collect the data, to use them and harness them. So as an example, and I want to really come to a hands-on approach on this, the department within the city of Helsinki that we are working now together, and I think given that the conditions in many of Russian cities are the same as in Finnish cities, that there is snow and there is really tough winters, there is summers, and then there is autumn full of rain, and spring not so much rain but still cold. It is very challenging for the city maintenance infrastructure to get grips with all these changing environments and environmental issues that this climate gives. So we have been using Stara, which is the maintenance service of the city of Helsinki, and actually the Stara roots from. It was founded in 1878 when Finland actually still was a part of Russia. So we have the Russian origins of this department within the city of Helsinki. So what the Stara does is they actually construct the roads and parks, they maintain them, they renovate all the natural areas, and they take care of the snow, for example, during the winter. And then there is a transport and all this kind of city transportation services that Stara is responsible for. So it's a big thing. Just to give you an example, in 2010 it was almost 300,000 truckloads of snow that was removed from the streets of Helsinki. So maybe the delegates from Siberia will know how difficult this is. And what we have now done is we have equipped the snow clearance vehicles with IoT devices, and we are trying to find new ways how to connect the city support infrastructure to the city decision making and also open this data to private companies. So here is some of the slides that give you more. I hope this will be distributed to you later, but this gives the basic idea how the logistics that drive this IoT is done. And then the aim of this is to kind of make it more efficient to maintain the street and collect a lot of new information about how the streets are used, where it is needed to repair or to clear streets. And just to give you an example, you can see here a waste basket in the lower left-hand side of the picture here. And actually, these even the waste baskets have IoT devices in them. So when they fill up, they will call the city and say, "Please come and take. I'm full. Come and take the garbage out." So even the garbage cans are IoT enabled with this project. We have lots of different kind of data already generated, but the problem becomes how to mash up these data, how to combine them to make meaningful services. I'll give you just an example. I know this is difficult to see, but the point here is that we have a lot of internal data that is generated by the Stara, by these intelligent devices that are connected to trucks, that are connected to waste baskets, that are connected to city street lights, and they give internal data, and then we will combine them with the meteorological data from Meteorological Institute, with the environmental data, and make a mashup that is available for the companies. And at this moment, we are still kind of like looking at different partners, private sector partners that could then utilize this data. But in the end, what this will do is that it will make the provision of these services more efficient, and it will also enable the private companies to work as subcontractors to the STARA, the city maintenance department, and we will try to really leverage the big data and the IoT devices for the benefits of everyone who is living in Helsinki and Tampere. So I leave you with these slides, and I thank you for the possibility to tell you about this interesting exercise. And if you are interested to to contribute or to work or to listen further what we will then achieve, this will run still a couple of years, this project. I'm more than willing to share more information with you. But thank you so much for the opportunity to tell about this. And I'll give it back to Vальraut and Olga